if we look at things like plumbing connectors, which mostly they're made out of what, like brass, various copper, they're coated in things, and also they make them out of plastic. So we got all these things here, right? And some of them are threaded, meaning it's got like, the kind of bevels so you can screw them together, and some of them aren't threaded. But really, the main idea of, I guess, like plumbing is to be able to connect these pipes in different directions, right? We have curved pipes, we have like these T-looking pipes, we have Y-looking ones. It's like you want to connect them all in different directions, right? And then you want to put things like valves and meters, so that you're either gas and water, which is really kind of nifty because the same, well, actually, I'm sure a plumber would correct me on that, but at least from an amateur's view, the same kind of stuff you use for water is what you'd use for gas. Now, of course, gas, probably you're using smaller pipes. From what I understand with plumbing, you use smaller piping is fine for cold water, and then you want like larger piping for either warm, and then like also your outlets, if you think like the excretion kind of pipes need to be bigger, right? Because it's kind of like similar to the body. One pipe's bigger than the other, right? It's all just pipes and different direction pipes and valves and such. So it's relatively simple stuff to 3D print. Now, there is a problem, of course. Is the 3D printed stuff going to hold up to pressure? Will it work long term? Will threads work? All these kinds of questions, and the answer to that is, I think it really depends on how much you develop it. But also, I'm really just doing this for a bit of fun instead of trying to make it professional. But I think you could make professional pipes. But anyway, so this is like plumbing, right? To give you an idea. Now, one extra thing is a clarinet, or wind instruments for that matter. Wind instruments, you can think like you unlock the ability to make a wind instrument. Well, of course, if you take a look at all the crazy looking keys on that thing, I think you're going to need to know a little more than just plumbing. But from at least a simple standpoint, maybe you want to make like a tin whistle or a little recorder or something, right? You could probably make one of those if you had some knowledge of plumbing. Here, an unfortunately blurry picture, but it shows the basic anatomy of a trumpet. We have the bell, which is kind of the sound thing, make louder, projector thingamajigger. It's like a speaker piece, and then we have the main tubes, the barrel, and the mouthpiece and reed. I think the ligature helps to hold the reed on or something, I don't know. And somehow the reed vibrates, and that's how you make that nice little clarinety sound. It's similar with the oboe. I think, what do you use, like 2 reeds or something? Could you 3D print reeds? That's a fascinating... Maybe we can try that out. I don't know. But you can see it's made out of like tubes and crazily complicated mechanisms, but you don't have to make crazy complicated mechanisms. You just drill a bunch of holes in a tube and it kind of works, right? So it's pretty simple stuff. Okay, so I guess this fascination started when I wondered, hey, could I put like a bike? See, that's a bicycle tube valve piece. Could I put that on like a bottle, fill up the bottle, and then press a lever and it goes... That'd be kind of cool, right? I still haven't done that, but this was my first attempt. I pretty much just drilled a hole in the top of this bottle lid, and then I just kind of threw it through here, and it doesn't work very well, as you see with all the tape. It's because I hadn't used any plumber's tape, which it would help. But I'll at least show you it so you can see what it does. Okay, so this thing is an electric pumper, and these are great. I recommend you have them. You pump up all your tires in your cars, bikes, whatever, and we got PSI here, so 10 PSI. These can hold a surprising amount of PSI. Currently it's on 0, but if I press the button to pump it, you can see it goes up to 10, and you can hear a leak, and it's really tough. It's really like a tire almost, not like super tough, because it's only 10 psi. These bottles, I think they can go up to like 30 safely, and then about 40 they start to blow or something like that. I've only pumped one up to about 20. But anyway, it's still holding 10. That's actually, but I can feel it's coming out of here. But otherwise, if I release this now we have a bottle that's kind of pumped up, that's leaking air. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? Next thing I thought, well, this actually, now that I know how to use just like put some plumber's tape around there, that'd actually make it more airtight. But I thought, hey, what about 3D printing threads, nuts, and screws and all this kind of stuff, right? So I figured out the okay, so the max size of the thread. I should go get my measuring stuff. Hang on one second. Here I've got some calipers, which are really, really handy. And if we measure the largest size of the thread, it gets us to about 28-ish, maybe because I have plumber's tape, it makes it a little more. So 28 mil, meaning we need a nut. Because a cap is really it's just like a nut, right? We need a nut which is threaded to be 28 at its max. So if I just say I put this inside and I enlarge it, it's only going to say 25, which is too small, because you got to think the thread has major and minor. You see that kind of the dark area? The dark area is a major. The lighter area is a minor, so this will work. I think this one works. Correct, it does. So that's how when you design threads, you make the nuts large area pretty much the same as the large area of the thread. I'll show you that later on, but and also usually you make your threads you make your masculine threads a little bit smaller. At least I find that helps, depending on the quality. So anyway, with the use of plumber's tape, of course, we create something that's watertight, and it's a lot harder to make something that's gas tight than watertight, unfortunately. But it's a start, if I turn this upside down, it's watertight, which is nice. Now, so a regular soft drink bottle doesn't actually need plumber's tape. This one does have it on for other reasons, because you can see in this one, it's got this ring around, it's got this like protruding ring that comes out, which seems to, I guess, press around down here and makes it watertight. I don't know, but I guess these been manufactured in a way that they are nice and watertight. So anyway, here's just if you want to see, here's a 3D printed thread and nut, and it does move. It's just, I'm trying to move it with one hand. Here we go. See, that's kind of cool. If you print these out, it'll let you practice how to make threads and nuts, because that's kind of important if you want to work with bottles. And you don't have to have threads, you can just connect pipes together, which I'll show you a little later on. But one other thing is the direction the thread goes. You can see how that one towards the left, it's kind of down, and towards the right, it's like angled. If I turn it, you can see you got this like different angle. So you got to remember there's an angle to the masculine and feminine thread pieces. I then built this thing, which lets you, pretty funny looking thing, it lets you pump it up and then release it. And of course, I haven't built a pressure release mechanism yet, which I'll do eventually. It does work. I'll show you it. And also you can see I've used plumber's tape there, so it makes it pretty much gas tight if you want to look in the inside of it. Okay, we'll do 10 psi. It took a really long amount of time to pump, I think because we have a gas leak right here. Unfortunately, yeah, I've just lost all my PSI. Anyway, but that's kind of the main idea, and then we can just unscrew this. I had to do it off camera because it was a little bit stuck, and then let it kind of go out. And if I pump it blows air out of there. One interesting thing is, of course, with gas and water is the size of the hole. The smaller, the more of like a projected. You can also
squeeze it. I guess if you made a squishy plastic, you could, make a squeeze air blower thing, or that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, the size is how, how strong it'd be. If you think you've got a lot of air and it's going through a tiny little hole, it's really pushing water. It's how you get a water jet, right? So it's a good thing to think about, the size of this stuff. But of course, a bigger size would give you more water coming out. So you just say, if you see, I've got this plumber stuff. This is really what I was looking at. I was like, what is this? What is the normal thread angle? You can see towards the left, it goes kind of down, and towards the towards the right, it goes down. The left, it goes up. I hope I didn't mistake that. I was talking about that one. Now this one, of course, just goes to a pipe, an empty pipe, because you'll solder it onto here, which is fascinating. So some of them are threaded and some of them are soldered. Depending, gas seems to be more soldered, water seems to be more threaded, though both of them, mix and match. Now, could you solder plastic? I think so, potentially, depending on the plastic. If you got the PLA filament, or the was it PETG filament or whatever plastic you're using, you could use that as a solder, and you could use a gas torch, like a little gas butane lighter to do that, probably, if you needed to, if the plumber's tape didn't work. Now, of course, I built a thing to attach this. Here, I'll show you. Okay, so you can see I can attach that to then a soft drink bottle, right? Now, it doesn't work very well because, of course, the direction, you need the soft drink bottle to be upwards, because you want, what I found is that water only really goes through these pipes, even if you unlock it with pressure. You need pressure, water pressure, or air pressure, I guess, to get things. These things, they all work under pressure, right? That's why when you turn your tap on, it goes whoosh, and there's like lots of water coming through, because it's all under pressure. Now, technically, if you put this upside down, that creates pressure. It's like pressure into here. That's why water can leak. If there is, and the ability for it to leak, it'll just leak out, right? Because it's pressure pushing it out. I guess you could say, actually, we do have a little bit of a leak. Yes, this stuff isn't perfect per se. It definitely needs some work, but you can kind of understand the basic idea of this. Like, if you were to push this further, you can make some pretty cool stuff. But that's pretty much the basic physics of this. Like, needs pressure. This stuff, if you make it airtight, usually using plastic and all that stuff, and watertight, that's kind of how you do it. Now I'll show you some other stuff. So here's some other stuff. These are threaded connectors. You can see. So this is like a 15 mil thread masculine to a 20 mil feminine. This is 20 to a 20. This is a 25. It's getting pretty big. I need to thin this down, the actual nut. It's very strong though. The whole thing, yeah, it's very, very strong and nice. 25 to a 20. So you'd put this on. You'd put this on there. Actually, I got to fix it up, because that's as I was saying, you got to make your masculine thread, or either one really, a bit smaller. You can see that. So it's depending on the on how big everything is, depends on how much difference you need to add, because the 3D printer is not perfect. You especially once you get into millimeters, it's not exactly perfect, but it's good enough that if you figure out how to do it, it's fine. So that's nice, just if you want some ideas for that. Now this is, it looks a bit inappropriate. It's not. I know what it looks like. It's meant to be like the start of I just wanted to make. All right, let me rip some of these apart to show you. Really, I just wanted to start to make a so here's the feminine connector. I've got a little thing in the middle, and here's the masculine connector, right? So we connect these together, and it's, yeah, look at that. That's cool, right? And then I thought, hey, you know what else is cool? This is an earlier test one, and I fixed my design a bit. You can see it's a little bit thin. it's a little bit, kind of wonky looking, but it does fundamentally work. Let's make a pipe that angles things. And this, of course, was to, and this is just suspicious, it's meant to be like a horn. Or what they call the bell. I think is that it, like the clarinet bell. So if we put it all together and we make it so you can blow out of it, put it all together, and then I blow on it. Unfortunately, I'm not a wind instrument player, or not much of one, so I don't really know how to get the get it to make a cool sound. Or if I need like a different mouth. I think I need another mouthpiece, but I don't know. I'll try to figure out. I guess all it's doing is amplifying, or really compressing, because it's so small, compressing the sound in my mouth that I'm making. Really, this is too small to project it, but I don't know, maybe it does something different. So it's like a small test. But if you needed pipes, like small pipes for something, that's kind of that's like the start of connectable pipes. It's cool, eh? Okay, so I looked up a like reeds these things. They make them out of wood, right?
Here is a Thingiverse, and I just looked up Reed. It's one of these websites where you can get like free 3D printing files, and it should say, is this one Creative Commons? Yeah, meaning you can like share it, and I think you can re-upload it and all that kind of stuff. I'm not actually sure. And for example, like here's someone who's made this is a Creative Commons saxophone, which is really, really cool. And there's a couple variations of this I've seen, but so you could just you can download and test one of these and print them out yourself if you want. These connectors, be careful of these connectors. They're a little small. I would recommend maybe printing it all together or enlarging those connectors, just FYI.
And they vibrate, making a sound for like oboes and clarinets and saxophones. These are soprano saxophone. Now you can see this one's not very good because it was printed in 0.3 layer height, and it looks terrible. But these are printed in 0.1, and they look pretty good, right? And I also 3D printed this mouthpiece and this little thing, and listen to this. Isn't that awesome?
Okay, so here we are in Blender, and of course, how do you make these things? Well, firstly, if we go to Preferences, can you see that? Okay, there we go. So you go to Edit in Blender, Edit, then Preferences, and you type in, firstly, you want the 3D Print Toolbox. That's just a very helpful thing. But you want a Bolt Factory. So you just type Bolt, and this is like a default add-on. You'll be able to have it pretty easily, and you turn that on, and maybe you need to restart or whatever, I don't know. And then you go to Add, Mesh, and Bolt, and for some reason mine is really small, which is a kind of a pain in the butt because you got to enlarge it. Now you're going to have to play around with these settings to understand them, because you do need to understand what all these do, because you want to, when you enlarge it with the S key, you want to pretty much keep it all static. You don't want to be pulling it up or down. You want to just keep it the same, otherwise you mess up the threading or the reverse string. So you can go bolt and nut, and unfortunately they don't have a curved thing, but because they've got a few different here, lock, 12 point, etc. I just do the hex nut because then you can curve it yourself later. Otherwise the bolt, here we go with the bolt, but also what you do with the head length is you make it nothing, and then you flat disk, you make that nothing as well, and then you can just get a thread. And of course you use a negative, so you use a what do you call, is it Boolean? Yeah, use a Boolean, which is a negative, to get rid of the internal bit. Anyway, but really, you're looking at here, major dia and minor dia. So you can see the minor dia is 4 less than the major. So the major is at 3, meaning this would be a 3 mil or a 3 centimeter thread, and you can make it whatever you want by just varying the, here, if we go here, see how that's, you got 1, 2, 3. If I put it to the, so 1 block, 2 block, 3 blocks. The diameter of that is 3. And now if I put it larger to like 5, there we go, we've got a 5 diameter screw. And of course, depending if it's millimeter or centimeter or whatever, will depend on how large you make it eventually. What I usually do is I zoom out and I make it way bigger. You can see if we do this, we got 10 centimeters. So now it's because, you know, you've got to fix it up. And as I said, you want to just enlarge it or shrink it with the S. I'm pressing S, all right? Because otherwise, if we go to edit mode and we just start pulling up, actually you do this, that's a little bit, like that doesn't really, you know, it's not good. So even if you put this thinger on, it's still a bit, you know, not good. So you just use the S to enlarge or to, you know, make it smaller. So we add one again. So as I said, the major dia is the thread size. So if you have one at 3, and then you have a nut, the major dia of the nut, it says 3, and then the minor dia is 26. The minor is this, it's so small so it's hard to see. The minor is this larger thing, I think, and the major is the, you see the black area there, kind of internal. Yeah, you can see how this, see, it protrudes. It's kind of large and protruding. Right. That's the major, and the minor is the internal part. So that'll fit. Or actually, you make your masculine thread a tiny bit smaller, just a tiny touch smaller. Usually like a half a mil smaller. So anyway, that's kind of how you do that. And as I said, and then you just add cylinder, get it kind of smaller, make it larger, oops, make it like, bring it up, and then see how that's going through it like so. We go back to our bolt, we add the Boolean modifier, we turn it on edit mode, click the cylinder, make the cylinder invisible. Hang on. Okay, usually it look, I've been having some trouble. As you can see, you can't, for some reason, it's not working on the top. Usually it does, but on the bottom we can see here, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Whatever, you just play around with it. For some reason, Blender's been kind of screwing up a little for me recently, but you can see how it's got a hole in it. So that's how you make the holes. Anyway, how do you make pipes? And then you just add, you know, you add nuts or whatever to like spheres and other stuff. But yeah, how do you make pipes? Make pipes through torus number 1 and cylinder number 2. So cylinder, and then we have an external. I usually give them better names, but an internal. Make that smaller, right? Make it smaller. Then you go up. Okay. I assume you know how the Boolean tool. Like, this isn't a Blender tutorial, but it's just to show you what I do, right? So that's how you make a pipe. See that? And then you just make it, you know, as, or instead, what you can do, instead of using the Boolean tool, actually this is, I don't know what I'm doing. You just click nothing in the cap fill type, and you see that? Also, you want to increase the vertices. See how that makes it smooth? And if we go low, it's like low polygon, which is cool. And maybe you could use it as a locking mechanism for your pipes, actually. But usually it just seems to print better, you know, if you make it smoother. So you can play around with the vertices if you want. Now, how do we make it thicker? We add a solidify modifier and just increase the thickness. And there you go. You can make it as thick or as thin as you want. And you'll play around with this, usually around 1.5 mil is good enough for smallish stuff. And then if you're going to make like big industrial strength pipes, I don't know, maybe you'd probably want 2 mil, 2.5 maybe, or even 3. If someone's standing on it, usually if someone's standing on it, even 4 mil is kind of, or like if it needs to be beaten up a little bit, 4 mil's kind of like tough. 4 and 5 here really tough. 2 and 3 is kind of, it'll hold its structure, but it's not really industrial. And 1 is like, that's pretty thin, right? It's getting really thin. So that's how you make straight pipes, but how do you make like curved ones? You use the torus modifier. Again, same thing. We need to add, actually I go down on the major segments, but on the minor segments, because it makes it, curvy, we do that. So if you look at, you see how there's a line there, but it's smooth there? Changing the major and minor segments will change that. 12 is actually a pretty decent number. Wow, I didn't know 12 was that convenient. We'll go with 12. So that's good, right? And then you just think like, okay, how thick, what diameter do I want? Currently this has a 1, 2.5. This has a 5 diameter, so we can make it a 6 diameter. See from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's like the internal, from there to there of the pipe, right? We can make it bigger, smaller. You pick your diameter, right? Once you're happy with that, what I do is we go to edit mode, we go to that one. Then we just, for a half pipe, for example, we just delete all those vertices, and there you go. Just add a solidify, and again with solidify, if you go negative solidify, it'll make it thicker externally, and if you go internally, it'll make it thicker internally. So when making masculine and feminine pipes, you can have the exact same shape, but then you add different, solidify externally, internally, right? Another thing you want to think about is that you're pushing a straight piece into here, so this isn't going to work. See how it's angled? So you want to, at least for me, I don't know, maybe you can figure something out yourself. I just did something like this, right? Made it straight, and then I see how that's kind of angled in like that. I did what I actually did, I enlarged that until it kind of was like straight-ish. Hang on. Good enough. I did it a bit better. But then you see how this is like larger and smaller. That's larger and smaller, not good. So what I do that, turn on this one, proportional editing, because then what happened, turn off this, and then we can see how it does that, because otherwise if we don't have proportional, it's not good. Not going to look nice. But if we turn on proportional, it's nice, right? So I can then straighten that out or flatten it out, make it flat. This, again, there's probably a better way to do this, but that's just how I did it. Actually, I should have done that. There we go, right? So that now is pretty decent, and that's how I made my my curved pipe. So maybe try out your own way, or you can just copy this way. So yeah, that's pretty much how I do this. If you want to make your own, and then you can just add threads, which is by adding the nuts. If you want to make your own plumbing stuff, well, go ahead and give it a shot. Otherwise, I'm gonna try to make like some instruments, wind instruments, see if I can make a little recorder or a clarinet or something. That'd be pretty cool, yeah.
Okay, so honestly, this is kind of nuts. I found this model for a Baroque oboe. As you can see, it's pretty damn cool, printed decently enough. Some issues with the, because I didn't really use many supports. But you can see here, so this one, wind instruments, of course, they just have the holes, and the modern ones have like little buttons and such, right? But the old school ones don't. I don't have an oboe thing, unfortunately, so I haven't been able to get it working. I've tried to make my own reeds. It has not worked, though these reeds do work. So these are like, all right, so here I've kind of figured this out about wind instruments. Wind instruments are technically like all the same thing, right? By the way, this is a model for technically a soprano kind of saxophone. It's just a tube with what you call a ligature, which is just a mouthpiece, and I made a extra big looking kind of reed, and then the thing over the top, right? Simple. It's just a tube that you blow air that's got something that makes it vibrate, right? And some holes, and then if you want to make it more fancy, you got all the buttons and such. That's pretty much all instruments. The difference between saxophones are brass, trombones have a different method of playing, because again, it's so the sound coming from the mouthpiece, it'll come out, I think, around the holes, I think, firstly. And then when you plug a hole, it goes further, and you keep plugging holes, and it goes further and further. And that's why it's harder to play the further out it goes. And the deeper it gets. So the longer the instrument, I think the wider as well. I'm not actually sure. The more it'll change, and of course the hole shape will change. Pitches and all this kind of stuff, right? Depending on how large and small it is. But really, it's like the length of air coming out, right? So it's like that creates like a vibration, and a higher and lower pitch vibration, or a higher pitch vibration. So a longer or shorter vibration, right? Which is really interesting. So all these things, flutes are metal, but it's got all the keys and all that stuff, and it doesn't use any kind of. Some flutes use a membrane, like a Chinese flute. And again, these ones use a reed. Oboes and bassoons, which bassoon is just like a giant ass oboe, and then it's contrabassoon, which is a giant ass bassoon, use the double reed. Basically two reeds kind of curved here, and like a tube, right? So it's pretty standard stuff. Mind you, you can look up all these. I've got the keys here. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's a bit of a pain in the butt trying to get the keys in and get them working. I got to put all pads on them. I did it before, it didn't really work. So these things do require a bit of patience and a bit of like trial and error. But this one specifically, the mini soprano saxophone, the connection here is not very well made. Maybe that's just my inefficiency or my lack of skill, but no, I think it's too small, so I had to tape it, which I'm not sure if it's screwing it up, or because it's really hard to get air down to here, I'm finding, but maybe that's just my bad playing. So I think it should be fine enough, but for me, I had that issue. Just be mindful if you're going to look this up on like the Thingiverse or all these other websites, because you'll find these models anyway. Anyway, here, I'll show you. I'll let you listen to this play. Hang on. I keep getting those harmonic squeaks. It's really annoying. Just because I'm not very good at this, I guess. Yeah, I can't get a very clear tone on it. And I'm not going to say it's like a bad reed or a bad instrument, though. I don't know. Probably playing with plastic is not making it better. I think it's just that I am not very good at this. I didn't practice the wind instruments. I practiced the strings when I was younger. So but I'm really interested in this. I think it's really cool. I want to kind of make more, of course. I want to see, because I'm not very good with high pitch sounds. It kind of hurts my head, to be honest, which is why it's like I almost have an aversion to playing these kinds of small instruments. If I could try to make like something in the alto range or the tenor range, because I believe what I found is that, all right, so baritone is the deepest. Not, well, actually, the deepest in the common range, because you can get like contra baritone or like, super baritone or whatever Italian word they probably French word they use, right? The baritone's like the it's like the really deep saxophone. Then you've got tenor. I'm pretty damn sure. Then it's tenor, which is kind of like that traditional saxophone, that real nice sax sound, right? That deep, kind of deep, but it's still got a bit of like a bit of higher, like a little bit mid-tones to it. And then it's alto. Alto is kind of like a mid-tone. It's got some high tones to it. And then soprano is the high pitch, so like flutes, clarinets, oboes, soprano saxes are all there. I don't know. Trumpet's kind of more like alto and tenor. I think trumpet, trombone. I think so. I think they have high tones. I don't know. No. But and then there's like there's like super soprano, like really small. So that's kind of your tone chart if you were interested in that. I think if I can make something around tenor, alto, which again just relies on a longer tube or maybe a larger tube. Again, I don't really know. And then I have to have the fun of working out the pitch of the holes and the percentages and the measurements and all that stuff, which is kind of the thing I don't really want to have to do, because it almost seems like a huge waste of PLA. Though I don't know, maybe I could make some kind of variable hole system or just use a lot of tape and tape up my bad holes. That actually... I'm envisioning something. Maybe I can make it. So anyway, I'll leave it with that. I hope you liked the video, and you go 3D print this stuff in your own and try to play it better than I did, because I'm not very good at it. But it does work. Isn't that cool? It's a 3D printed reed. What on earth is this? It's the future.